I shouldn't be telling you this. But if I don't, someone else will go through it. And I can't let that happen. You need to know. You need to hear what I saw. Because the Smoky Mountains, they don't just keep secrets. They hold on to them. And sometimes, those secrets come looking for you.
My name is Ranger Mitchell. I've been in these mountains for over 15 years. When you spend that much time out here, the Smokies stop being just a park on a map. They become part of you. Every trail, every ridge, every stream, I could walk them blindfolded. I know the call of a whippoorwill at dusk, the way a bear moves through undergrowth, the exact turn of a trail before it breaks open to a valley. Most of my job was what you'd expect, guiding visitors, maintaining the paths, keeping an eye out for fires, watching the weather. But over time, I started to notice something. There were other parts of the job, unofficial duties, things no one really explained, but we all did without question. You'd be told to redirect hikers, send them down an alternate path, sometimes without a reason. A ridge would suddenly be marked closed for erosion, even though the ground was steady and untouched. A trail would be roped off for maintenance, though no crew ever set foot on it. We used to laugh about it, calling it the Smoky Shuffle, moving tourists from one trailhead to another for no reason anyone could make sense of. At first, I thought it was just bureaucracy, somebody higher up trying to control the flow of people, keep the numbers balanced. That's the joke we made anyway. But the longer I stayed, the less funny it got. Because every closure was deliberate, every reroute was planned. And though they never explained why, I started to understand that there was a reason. A reason they didn't want written down. When a trail was blocked, it wasn't because of erosion. And when hikers were pulled off a ridge, it wasn't because of maintenance. It was because something had been seen. Something that was better left unseen. We weren't protecting the park from the people. We were protecting the people from the park.
It was late one night on patrol. The kind of shift where the world feels hollowed out, where the forest seems too still, and every sound carries further than it should. I was walking a stretch near Klingman's Dome, a ridge that stays quiet after dark. Most animals bed down. But that night, something was moving with me. At first, I told myself it was nothing. Bears wander, coyotes circle, elk come down low when the weather shifts. You learn not to spook easy in this job. But the more I listened, the more it didn't feel right. The footsteps weren't random. They were patterned. When I slowed, the sound slowed. When I stopped, it stopped. And when I picked up my pace, the rhythm fell right in line. I froze, letting the beam of my flashlight sweep through the brush. Nothing, just trees, fog rolling low, the distant trickle of water on rock. I took another step, and right then, the echo of another footfall, perfectly timed. I decided to test it. I broke into a sprint, boots slamming the dirt, breath sharp in my chest. For a split second, silence. And then, it followed. Not instantly, not like an animal giving chase. The sound lagged behind, a half-second delay, as though it was waiting for me to move first. Like it was copying me. That hesitation chilled me more than if something had leapt from the dark. Because whatever was out there wasn't just moving. It was listening, learning. I grabbed my radio. The static cracked through the silence, louder than it should have been. Base, I've got movement parallel to my route. Possible shadow, requesting guidance. The response came almost instantly, too quick. My supervisor's voice, low and calm, like he'd expected the call. "Ignore it, Mitchell. Just keep walking." No alarm, no follow-up. Just those words, steady as stone. I wanted to press him, to demand an explanation. But something in his tone made me swallow it down. I let go of the radio, and so I walked, step by step, with something pacing me, just out of sight, repeating every move I made, like a shadow with a mind of its own. Several weeks passed before anything else happened. I convinced myself the footsteps were nothing, just the forest playing tricks, or maybe nerves catching up with me after too many night shifts. That's what I told myself anyway. Then came the tower assignment. A fire lookout station deep in the backcountry. So far off the beaten path, most rangers only pull it once or twice a season. Remote, isolated, miles of dark ridges in every direction. Up there, you see everything. Storms crawling in from the horizon, fog sinking into the valleys like a tide. Nights are long, the kind where silence presses down so heavy, you swear you can hear the earth itself breathing. It was on the third night, past midnight. I was scanning the tree line when I noticed a light moving along the trail far below. At first, I thought it was a late hiker, maybe lost, trying to find their way back. The glow swayed side to side, warm and golden, like an old oil lantern. Not a flashlight, not the cold, sharp beam of a headlamp. This was older, dimmer, and it carried itself with a rhythm, swinging. I leaned out of the watchtower window and called down, cupping my hands to my mouth. "Hey, you all right down there?" The light didn't waver, didn't stop, just kept moving slow and steady through the trees. I tried again, louder this time. "You need help? Trail's closed that way." Nothing. No voice, no reaction. Just the lantern glow sliding along the path, steady as a pendulum. Something in my gut turned cold. I grabbed the binoculars, trying to catch a clearer look. My hands shook as I focused in. And that's when I realized there was no one holding it. The lantern floated, low, as if carried at waist height, but no figure, no arm, no shadow to explain it. Just a swinging flame drifting along the trail, moving with purpose, as if it knew exactly where it was going. I stood there, frozen, watching until it disappeared into the tree line. The next morning, I climbed down and followed the trail to where I'd seen it. The rain had been steady that night, leaving the ground soft, thick with mud. If anyone had walked there, the prints would have been deep, easy to track. But the trail was untouched. No footprints, no marks, nothing but wet earth. Like whatever carried that lantern had never touched the ground at all. They sent me out on a search not long after. A young hiker had gone missing off one of the side trails, the kind of call we dreaded because it meant time was already against us. Out here, if you're not found within the first day, the odds drop fast. I was combing the ridges with 2 other rangers when I spotted something odd ahead on the path. A backpack. Not tossed aside or torn open the way you'd expect if someone had been lost or panicked. No. This one sat perfectly upright on a stump. Straps folded neatly, zippers closed tight, like someone had set it there on purpose. I remember standing over it, staring, because it didn't make sense. People drop gear in a hurry, they don't arrange it, not like that. Hours passed and the woods felt heavier the longer we searched. Just before dusk, when the shadows stretched across the trail, we heard it, faint at first. "Help! Someone help me!" A voice, human, male, sounded just like the hiker we were after. We froze for half a second, then broke into a run. Every nerve in me said, "Move, get to him before the light died." But the closer we pushed, the stranger it got. The voice seemed to shift, always just beyond reach. One moment to our left, then behind us, then ahead again, circling, pulling us deeper.
I shouted back, "We hear you! Stay put, we're coming!" But the reply was the same, over and over, like a recording caught on a loop. "Help! Someone help me!" I was ready to keep chasing, but the others stopped dead. One of them grabbed my shoulder hard enough to make me stumble. His face was pale, eyes locked on the trees. And he said it flat, like it was a rule I should have already known. "We don't go after voices out here." I wanted to argue, but the look on his face, the way his hands trembled against the rifle strapped to his chest, it shut me up. So we stood there, listening to that call fade into the dark, knowing full well that whatever was speaking out there, whatever was pretending, it wasn't someone we could save. I told myself I could shake it off, that the missing hiker, the voices, the lantern, it was just stress stacking up. But deep down, I knew better. Something had started to follow me, whether I admitted it or not. It was in the small things at first. The way the air would shift around me on patrol, the sense that the woods were too quiet when I stopped to listen. And then I began noticing shadows, long shapes stretching across the ground where there shouldn't have been any. I'd glance at the sun, high overhead, casting light in one direction, but the shadows in the tree line leaned another way entirely, out of sync with the world, like they were bending to something else. I remember one evening in particular. I was back in my cabin at the edge of the ranger station, trying to convince myself to get a few hours of sleep before my next shift. The air outside had turned sharp, frost gathering on the windows. I'd just set down my radio when it started, slow, deliberate scraping against the glass. At first, I thought it was a branch dragging in the wind, but the sound was too precise, too steady, long claws etching into the pane. I froze in the dark, listening. My hand reached for the flashlight, but I didn't dare switch it on. After what felt like forever, the sound stopped. I finally worked up the nerve to step closer, and that's when I saw it. A word scratched into the frost on the window, the letters jagged, uneven, but clear enough to read. Stay. I ripped open the door, light cutting across the yard. Nothing. Just frost, still clinging to the grass, the silence so heavy it rang in my ears. But on the outside of the window, I saw them. Fresh claw marks carved deep into the frame. And yet, no footprints, no sign anyone had been there. Just those letters, burned into my sight. From that night on, I stopped undressing to sleep. I'd climb into bed with my boots still on, uniform still buttoned, because some part of me knew, if it came back, I'd need to be ready to run. I couldn't keep it bottled up anymore. Every night brought something new. A noise, a shadow, a feeling that something was pressing closer. So I started writing it all down. A private logbook, not the official reports, not the sanitized paperwork we turned in at the end of each shift. This was mine. Dates, times, every detail I could remember. The footsteps that echoed me with that half-second delay. The lantern that floated through the trees. The hiker's voice circling in the dark. And the word carved into my window. That book became my anchor, the only proof I had that I wasn't losing my mind. I thought if I kept it hidden, I'd be safe. But I wasn't. One morning, I came back from patrol and found my logbook gone. My desk drawer pulled open, the pages missing. I stormed into the office, demanded answers. My supervisor just looked at me, calm as stone, and said words I'll never forget. You weren't alone out there, but you weren't supposed to see it. That was it. No explanation, no sympathy, just a statement, flat, final, like I'd broken some rule I never agreed to. And now, I had to live with the consequences. I felt everything in me unravel right then. All those years in the Smokies, all the jokes, the quiet orders to steer people away, the trails suddenly closed for no reason. It all came together. They'd known.
They'd always known. And me? I was just another fool who looked too closely. So hear me now, because I don't know how much longer I can carry this weight. If you ever go into the Smoky Mountains, don't linger on the tree line. Don't stare into the woods too long. Don't answer when a voice calls your name from the dark. And if, God help you, your footsteps ever start echoing back to you a second too late, it means you've already been chosen.
I wasn't supposed to survive. You don't understand. People don't walk away from them. Not once they've been marked. Not once the echo has taken notice. I wasn't supposed to leave that forest. There's a pause, a shuffle of movement, the sound of breathing, strained, uneven. Then, soft, deliberate, 3 knocks echo from somewhere beyond the microphone, one after another, hollow, patient. Do you hear that? He whispers. They found me. They followed me home. I thought the mountains would keep them, but they don't stop at the tree line. They never stop. His voice drops lower, every word pressed with dread, the weight of inevitability. If you're listening, if this recording ever makes it out, don't come looking for me. Don't go into the Smokies. Don't even think about it. Because once they know your name, they don't let go. Another knock. Closer now. The air itself seems to shudder around him. He breathes sharply, the microphone catching the rasp of fear clinging to his throat. They're outside the door. For a long moment, silence. Then something changes. A second voice, faint, distorted, begins to thread through the recording, repeating every word he says, just a half-second behind. A perfect, mocking echo. They're outside the door. They're outside the door. The two voices overlap, his breaking down, the other steady, relentless. The delay grows shorter, collapsing in on itself, until it sounds like he's speaking in unison with something else entirely. The last words, barely audible, slip through in a breathless whisper. It's already inside. Silence floods the tape. Nothing more, just the hum of dead air. Then, black.